I am attempting to adjust my screens so I can make this a full page, and I can't see it because there's a, I'm so sorry, sir.
Oh, no.
Your, the Zoom thing is covering up my menu bar. How do I move it out?
Try the, oh, okay.
You see what
Can you drag that?
I'm trying? There we go. Thank you. So sorry. Beginning. Great.
So now I have to tell you that this microphone only goes to everybody else's computers on Zoom.
So I should
You have
project
to
this way?
yell for those people down there.
All right. Well, if you are listening from home and I am too loud, you know where your volume control is. So there you go, because I want everyone here to hear me. My name is Judy Smith. I am the area representative for Lane County for Home Share Oregon, which is a fairly new nonprofit. Home Share Oregon started out as a program in Portland under a different nonprofit called Harbor of Hope. They work with the unhoused, but they also work with different housing issues in the Multnomah County area. And I like to think that Home Share Oregon started out as a question. And that question was, what else can we do to get affordable housing for Oregonians? They did their research and they discovered the idea of home sharing. It's really not a new idea. It's been around for decades. When my grandparents were young, and of course that's a while ago, when my grandparents were young, they called it taking in a boarder. If you had an extra room, you might just rent it out because somebody needed a place to live. And that's the basic idea. It hasn't changed much. However, we do it a little differently. Right now, there we go. I'm going to start by telling you our goals. Now, again, I did say we are a new nonprofit. We actually became a self-standing nonprofit June of last year. So very new. And our number one goal, it seems like a strange one, but it's to shift the cultural norm in regard to home sharing. Home sharing is basically having a roommate in a home. Now, your home can be a house, your home can be a townhouse, it can be an apartment, but you choose to share it with someone else. And in this generation, that just seems a little weird. But it's a really good idea, and I'm going to tell you why. Our second, I'll finish up with our goals first. Our second goal is we provide support. We provide support to vulnerable populations, especially seniors. I would say half the people I talk to are seniors, and I do talk to both homeowners and potential housemates or renters. And we also have the assignment to work with individuals and families that have been displaced by the wildfires. And we have a plan. It's not in place yet, but we have a great board and a great executive director, and they have the vision for using home sharing to help foster kids that are aging out of the foster care system. So that is a goal that we have, not quite in place yet. Another thing that we're doing, and you'll hear more about this as time goes on because we'll be advertising it when it's ready, but we want to build what we're calling a rapid response housing opportunity in case of another natural disaster. We believe that wildfires may come again to different parts of our state. And so we think that if we can recruit homeowners who have a spare room, maybe they're not interested in renting it to someone long-term, but they might be willing to take in a family or an individual in case of another natural disaster, a wildfire, a flood, and that sort of thing. And we're specifically going to be doing that here in Lane County and also in Jackson County, because those were the locations of the most recent fires. And then another thing that we're doing is we're engaging in advocacy, both at the county and state level, working with our elected officials to incentivize home sharing, especially with our homeowners. So those are our goals. Here's some information for you regarding the housing crisis. If we don't have a housing crisis, it's certainly a housing challenge. The national average for rental occupancy is at 95%. That means of available rentals across our nation, only 5% are available for renting. And any one of those probably has 14 different people vying for it.
I'm a landlord. You've got tons more than that.
Well, we're talking national average. We're going to get to
Okay.
Eugene in a moment. But that's a very good point. You're right. It's higher in some parts of the country than others, Eugene being one of those places. But I'm getting there. Here in Oregon, at the end of December, we learned that through an article from Oregon Live, that there were 45,000 Oregon households behind on their rental payments and possibly facing foreclosure. Now that's just a random fact to throw in there. Those are people that are housed currently but might not be in the near future. And then the thing that came out most recently last month was an article that was telling us that 40% of Oregonians over the age of 65 feel that they are at risk for losing their homes. And that's really scary. That's really scary. So here in Lane County, the average annual income in Lane County is actually not very high. The average annual income is just over 26 grand a year. If you're only spending 30% on your housing, which is recommended, you need to have a place to rent for $652 a month.
Wow.
That's kind of challenging, if not impossible, because the average cost of a 2-bedroom apartment here in Lane County is almost $1,400 a month. Now, I know some are higher, some are lower, but that's the reality. And renters in the Eugene area are actually facing a 97% occupancy rate. And that for the remaining 3% that are available, there are probably 30 families or individuals vying for those spots. Does that sound closer to what you've got?
At least.
At least. Okay, well, see, you heard it here. My facts are true, or at least approaching that. So what's home sharing? How's it work? What the heck are you talking about? After the Oregon census, we learned approximately there are 1.5 million empty spare rooms in Oregon. If you look at that as underused housing, that's a lot of empty space. Someone smarter than me did the math, I think it was a board member, and decided that if we could fill 2% of those empty rooms, that would be housing for 30,000 people. Now, I live in Springfield. That's about half of Springfield. To me, that's really significant. You carry that to the next step, that gives potentially 30,000 homeowners some financial resiliency. The average home share in Oregon right now goes for between $600 and $800 a month, depending on your location and the space you have available. If you think about your budget, what would an extra $600 to $800 do for you? Well, it could do a lot. People who have that lower rent or more income, they have better health care, they eat better, all kinds of things are resolved if you can find affordable housing. So the way we do it, we think it's a pretty good idea. It works in Europe. There's over 1 million people. My executive director told me today that I don't have the stats in this presentation, I'm going to get them, but she was telling me that today in our country, about 1 million people are home sharing, whether they're, I bet that's my hamburger.
Yep.
No, mine had a salad.
Salad? Oh,
Sorry.
very good.
Sorry. False alarm. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. So
1 million people?
1 million people, thank you, across the country are currently home sharing. Why do we think it's a solution? Well, it benefits both the homeowner and the renter. It's flexible, it's affordable, and the way that we do it, it's efficient and it's independent. Most home sharing organizations are case management. That's not how we do it. So we think it's a good solution for a problem that frankly is simply growing, and that's trying to get people with affordable housing. So how does it work? Well, First of all, you should sign up with us. We have a website, homeshareoregon.org. I've passed out some handouts. By the way, if you don't want them, please leave them. I'll pick them up. I'm big into not wasting stuff. So, but keep it for a little bit. Anyway, homeshareoregon.org, you sign up with us and we purchase for you a membership with a roommate matching service called Silver Nest. Silver Nest, there's several of them out there. I like to tell people that Silver Nest is kind of a cross between an Airbnb and a dating app. Now that sounds a little weird, but let me tell you why. The both homeowners and renters go online and they answer a series of questions about your lifestyle and what you feel is important for you to have a housemate. And both parties, both the homeowner and the renter, answer the same questions, all right? And so when you build your profile online through the magic of algorithm, and I only call it magic because I really don't understand how algorithms work, but through the magic of algorithm, you are matched. It's based on location. It's based on the ways you answer those questions. And so that profile becomes really important. You monitor, review your matches on Silver Nest. You communicate with them through that platform because this platform is secure. You don't share your personal information, your phone number, your email. You don't do any of that until you find someone you think is a good match. All right. And then when that's done, I guess really the next step begins, your journey begins. I will tell you that Silver Nest has some great tools. They have a criminal background check, which we encourage both homeowners and renters to complete, and we will pay the fee for that. The membership that you have is good for 6 months. Our hope is that you'll find a housemate within 6 months. If you don't, then you reach out to your area rep, i.e. me or my colleague Ivy. There's 2 of us now covering the entire state of Oregon. But you reach out to us and we might be able to extend that for you. But anyway, and it is at no charge. We don't charge for that. We use our resources to pay for that membership for both homeowners and renters. And I mention that because we don't want you to go directly to Silver Nest unless you want to be a paying customer to them, because they will happily sign you up to do that. They do cover they're trying to get established all over the country. Our focus is Oregon. We don't want to pay to help you find a home in Pennsylvania, but if you're in Pennsylvania coming to Oregon, yeah, we'll let you sign up. So that's how that works. When you're building a profile, it's really important to be truthful, to be thorough, to be descriptive. You know, if you want a good match, you have to answer questions appropriately for yourself. We want you to be honest about who you are and what you're looking for. If you choose to post a photo, that sometimes helps with matching, but it's not required. When you're looking for that right fit, well, you have to ask good questions, all right? And that can start on the platform, asking questions, messaging back and forth through Silver Nest. It should continue when you meet them face to face. Note the picture of going out for coffee. Coffee shops are a great place to meet a potential housemate, although I did have 2 women who met at a dog park because it was important for their dogs to be compatible as well. It worked out for them, yay. But we think you should maybe meet them more than once. Take advantage of that criminal background check online. Again, we'll pay for it. That's your private information. You don't share it with anyone until you find someone you want to share it with. But do take advantage of that because both homeowners and renters want to feel secure in this relationship. We also think you should ask for personal references and check them out. So there's all these steps. It isn't an instant fit. It takes a little while. So, for security, use the tools that are available. They also have a home share agreement that is a template negotiated between the 2 parties, signed on DocuSign, becomes a legal agreement between both parties, includes a clause that says if for any reason this isn't working for either party, we agree to dissolve it with 30 days notice. And that's another level of security for both parties, because even if you sign a lease, and some homeowners really want you to sign a lease, although we advise month to month, just because it's easier to transition. What if the what ifs come? What if I get someone I don't like? What if they aren't who I really wanted? And that can happen on both sides. So that agreement, that signed legal agreement saying that you're willing to do that becomes really important. And I think the most important thing I can tell you, if you decide to do this, take your time. The average home share in, according to Silver Nest, is between 1 and 3 years. I did talk to a woman. I met her through Greeters in Springfield. She home shared for 8 years, saved enough money, and in anticipation of retirement has purchased herself a single wide mobile home in a 55 and over park. But she wouldn't have been able to do that if she hadn't been home sharing. These are a couple of testimonies. It's the word I use. I got to do a presentation with the Cottage Grove City Council, and Clarice Savage shared her home share story. Now, she didn't sign up with us. She did it a few years ago when she was pregnant with her youngest, which is the cute little girl in the picture. She's obviously a little older, but they did home sharing. They found a match for her husband when they were transitioning to the Eugene area. He got a job at the U of O. She was 8 months pregnant and not ready to move yet. So finding a home share, they did it through their faith community, helped out an older woman whose husband had died recently and was lonely and needed some help. He did a lot of heavy lifting for her, according to Clarice, and they are still friends today. The other gentleman in the picture is he's turned out to be a friend of mine. His name is Robert, and he found his housemate end of December. They moved in together the 1st of January. And I have a voicemail on my phone that I haven't deleted yet because it makes me happy. Robert tells me that his housemate Margaret is wonderful, and it's like a key fitting in a lock. And that's certainly our hope for any home share opportunity. So who do you know? Home sharing works for all ages and all demographics. Anyone with an extra room can consider home sharing. It works well for empty nesters. If you've got a kid that's gone off to college and you have an empty room and you've decided you don't need a shrine to their childhood, this is a great thing to do with it. I think I mentioned earlier, I talk a lot to seniors, not just those that have a home, although definitely some of those, but a lot more seniors who, for a variety of reasons, can no longer afford where they're living currently. Sometimes the property has been sold, it's being remodeled, the price is doubling. Sometimes it's just been sold and they don't want you there anymore. And so for seniors on a limited budget, this is a great option. We do find that some of our older folks who have a home are willing to barter for reduced rent. If someone will do chores around the house, that's a good option for them. And especially after the pandemic, people who are struggling with isolation. There's a woman from our community, I met with her, she's 74 years old. Her husband died 8 years ago. She's been doing fine in an apartment. But one night she was cooking something and she didn't have an ingredient for what she was cooking. And she had the thought, wouldn't it be great if I had someone I could call and say, could you pick this up on your way home? She's looking for what we're starting to call the Golden Girls experience. I don't know if you remember that show from the 80s that had Betty White, B. Arthur. I can't promise you that exciting drama in a home share, but the idea of living in community for older women when they've been the caregivers and the taker care ofs, people their whole lives, living in community with 2, maybe 3 other women is very, very attractive, because then you've got someone there that you can call on who knows if you're sick, who pays attention if you don't come home at night. And that's really attractive. So anyway, isolation, great solution. These 2 things, we're looking for volunteers. We're trying to build a movement. I don't know where that first word came from. for home sharing, we're trying to change the cultural perspective. And so people that are concerned about affordable housing, we're looking for some volunteers to help us specifically here in Lane County. And you can look us up on Facebook. I hope you will look us up on Facebook and like us and follow us, because we are new and we're trying to build more traction in the social media area. This other thing, it says you win. That was the March thing. Right now, I need to update this slide. Right now, we have a wonderful board member who has given us $5,000. And this is what we're doing with it. If a homeowner signs up and builds a profile on Silver Nest, we're giving them a $50 Visa card. When they match with a housemate, we're going to give them $100 and tell them to do something fun together. And we're just trying to build excitement and get people to pay attention to what we're trying to accomplish here. So we can't do it alone. So if you have a home and a spare room, I challenge you, consider home sharing. This is a great way to provide affordable housing in a community that does not have enough housing. All right, it can make a difference. If that's not for you, help spread the word. These flyers, maybe you don't need it, but you might have a great Aunt Tildy living in a 4-bedroom house that you'd like to tell her about it. So be sure to do that for me. Consider volunteering if you need more information. Well, we're kind of making that up, but I'm actually planning a meeting for May 21st. It's a Saturday. We're gathering together some of our elected officials to keep us informed on what's going on with housing in our state. Julie Fahey, who is the state rep for Eugene, Junction City, there's another, Bethel, thank you. Anyway, she's the chair of the housing committee. I actually have a meeting with her on Thursday. So we're trying to gather different folks that work in our legislature, work maybe in local government, to come to this gathering. We're going to invite the community, and we'll be having some more defined volunteer opportunities at that meeting. I can't tell you where yet because I'm still looking for a location, but I can send it to you. Sign up for our newsletter. It comes out once a month. You'd be all informed, email, and you can unsubscribe at any time. And then I guess my last plea is if you have any connections in the community with other organizations that care about housing, that want to see our community impacted in a positive way, please, help open that door. So if you introduce me through an email, I'll take it the rest of the way. We think that home sharing is a way to prevent people from becoming unhoused in the first place. It's affordable, it's flexible, it's totally independent. It's like a business decision between the two parties. The last piece, and I don't know if I should copy this and put it in the chat. I always like to be accountable. I have some links to some of the stats that I've shared with you tonight, but those I can put them in the chat probably just in case people want to look it up and see for themselves where I got all this information. So that's my presentation. If you have questions, I'd love to answer. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you got to swallow.
I'll just cover my mouth. Do you do a credit report?
We don't.
You can't do credit reports.
What do you mean
Only
you
that person who has the credit report can do credit report.
I'm sorry, sir. Can you, I'd like to repeat this for the microphone.
Okay, you're not allowed to request a credit report. Only the person whose credit needs to be pulled is authorized to pull it.
So what I'm hearing from a member here is that in order to get a credit report, that has to be requested by the person it's being done
Exactly.
for.
So
Okay.
as a
Unless you're
landlord,
a bank,
as a
then you sign a paper.
yeah, but as a landlord, I have the prospective tenant fill out
Yes.
an authorization for me to check their credit. In a home share situation, I would want to do the same, but I'm good at it. I do it over and over and over again. These home share people don't have experience in.
Good on you at it.
No, we'll sign you up. No,
That was very vague.
that's a valid question that I don't have the answer to. And again, think that's a really good idea. And if there was a resource online where people could learn how to do that, we could probably add it to our website. But that's a good question. I don't know the answer to, but we do not do credit reports on people.
I can talk to you more about that.
That would be
But-
very useful.
So how much do you check after shearing has happened for a while? You know, do you gather statistics from the people that have started shearing to see how many of them are working out satisfactorily from both points of view?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I know that Silvernest does some follow-up with, because again, they are a for-profit company, and they definitely have queried their participants. In terms of our organization, I'll be real honest with you. I am working hard to track all the different people that have signed up. We recently, like 2 weeks ago, reached the 400 level for the number of homeowners that have signed up with us since we became a self-standing nonprofit in June. I work really hard to track, especially the people in Lane County, but just because they've signed up doesn't mean they've matched yet. And so I do a series of follow-up emails. So have you found a housemate? How's it going? I want to know if it's successful. The real unfortunate truth is people will answer, but not everybody does. So we're struggling to capture some of that information. Again, we're new. We're figuring it out. Ivy and I like to say that we're building the plane while we're flying it, but but that's valid. We are struggling to get those statistics because people are very private. I mean, I work for Home Share Oregon. I don't work for Silvernest. I will have renters call me and say, well, can't you look at my profile and let me know if it's any good? And it's like, no, hon, I can't, because your information is private and I don't have access to that, which in some ways is good for them. But, I find workarounds. It's like, you want me to edit your profile? Send it to me in an email. I'll figure it out. Yes, ma'am.
I had a question. I mean, you mentioned that the old school border system.
Uh-huh.
And so there are multiple ways to sort of have this relationship. I mean, you kind of put it as a sort of a roommate, but
Mhm.
The border system people had their own private room, but they were provided meals and they ate collectively. There's also the more sort of co-housing approach where you are sort of a collective in a way.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the whole issue of access to the kitchen. Are you really a community? So could you address that a little bit? The kinds of things that you find?
Absolutely. It is such a wide spectrum. I run into some homeowners that have a half a house they're not using. And they're a quiet person. They're very private. And if they meet once in a while in the hallway, that's all they want. I have got other people who want to have a relationship with their housemate. In terms of kitchen access, all of that is negotiated between the homeowner and the renter. And that's where that compatibility piece comes into play. The kind of questions they ask, they will ask you, what kind of home share relationship do you want? I'm very private, I prefer very little contact. Well, I'd like to have something. And then there's I think there's 3 or 4 levels. I think the one that amuses me is I want them to be my best friend. So again, they do it with a little bit of humor on Silvernest. I think that helps. But in terms of how the situation works, it really varies. There's some people, we matched a couple of women up in Portland. One of them had been living was a photographer. She lost all her business because of the pandemic. She, all those weddings that got canceled, so she ended up selling her house, or I think she was renting, but she bought herself an RV and tried living on the street, and it was hard. And she decided to try home sharing. Well, at the time, there was another woman who was just had a home, but her income had also dropped, and they matched, and their dogs matched, and they're very happy. And I mean, they had like an hour and a half conversation of washcloths versus sponges in the kitchen. I mean, they were totally cooperative. She made room for this woman's stuff. She didn't have a lot of stuff because she'd been living in an RV, but they totally dove in and they're very, very happy. There's other folks. There's another woman up there in Portland. I was talking to her. She has 3 rooms for rent, but she doesn't want them in her kitchen. So she's providing them with a refrigerator, a microwave, a hot plate, and a tea kettle.
Oh,
You know, it is up to the homeowner what they're looking for. It is up to the housemate, and they you know, you get matched. Now, those matches aren't always 100%. In fact, as they rarely are, but it will tell you the percentage. You might match with 9 people, and 4 of them will be a 30% match, and there may be one 90% match. But you know, it again, it's through that algorithm. It's through asking those questions, gets you started. And then that conversation needs to continue. And when you do it through Silvernest and using their messaging platform, it's done in a secure way. Most people don't even put their last name. Some folks use an alias. You know, they want to be careful, and well, they should be. I was talking to a young man in Junction City who was looking for home share. I need to follow up with him. I don't know what happened with him, but he was looking on Craigslist. And he found someone who thought that he could move in and live in their closet if he would let them rub his feet every night. And that was just, you know, I told him, don't do it. You know, I mean, I wish that wasn't the case, but that's a real story.
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, he's trying to get his GED and get his life together, and he's working part-time, and yeah.
All right, it looks like we are out of time.
I'm sorry, I
But
would
no one
not.
put- No, that's been fantastic.
I
That
would
was
put,
really interesting and cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so glad to know that's happening.
well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about it. I've lived in the Eugene Springfield area for about 40 years. I went back to graduate school when I was 50 and studied nonprofit management. I've worked for St. Vinny's. I've worked for Catholic Community Services. I know the need is great for people that are impoverished, but this is for working people.
Yeah.
For people who have an income that can't afford $1,500 a month for
Yeah.
a crappy apartment.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for your
Thank
time.
you, Judy. I